First of all, the water sample were being taken from section 7 Lake. Next, all of the apparatus that will be used in this particular experiment were being rinsed, which are 1 5000 ml jug, 6 500 ml beaker, 3 200 ml beaker, and 5 10 ml syringe, together with 6 sample cells. Then, the water sample were being poured into a 5000 ml jug. After that, 6 500 ml beakers were prepared, each filled with 500 ml of the collected water sample. Next, all of the beakers were being placed on the jar test apparatus. Then, 5 syringes were being used to take the ferric chloride solution. Each of the syringes have different amount of ferric chloride solution, which are 1 ml, 2 ml, 3 ml, 4 ml, and 5 ml respectively. After that, the impeller of the jar test apparatus is being set up to be in contact with the water sample in the beaker. Next, the jar test apparatus is being switched on. At the same time, 5 different amount of ferric chloride solution were being added to the 5 beaker by using the syringe. The other 1 beaker with no ferric chloride solution being added to it will act as the control water sample. The jar test apparatus was being set to sequential rotation with 3 parameters, which are M1, mix at high speed for 5 minutes, M2, mix at low speed for 3 minutes, and M3, allowed to rest for 50 minutes to let the flock settle. After all of the sequential rotation of the jar test apparatus is finished, the impellers were being lifted off from the water sample in the beaker. In order to analyze the water sample quality, 5 different experiments will be conducted to get 5 different types of parameters. The first experiment that will be conducted is the total dissolved solid experiment. From this particular experiment, the value of total dissolved solid will be obtained. Beaker that contain the water sample is being put on the conductivity meter. The tip of the black rod is being rinsed with distilled water and being wiped by using the tissue before being dipped into the water sample. On the conductivity meter apparatus, button TDS and read is being selected. The apparatus is being left to stabilize for a few seconds, then the reading will appear. The reading is then being recorded. This step is being repeated 2 times again to take the average reading, and this particular experiment will be repeated for the other 5 beakers. The second experiment that will be conducted is the pH experiment. From this particular experiment, the value of pH of the wastewater will be obtained. The pH electrode was being rinsed with distilled water and gently being dried with a tissue. The electrode is then being immersed in the wastewater sample. Ensure that the electrode was fully submerged and not touching the walls container. The pH reading was allowed to stabilize, and the pH value was recorded when the readings appeared on the screen. The previous step is being repeated 2 times again to take the average reading, and this particular experiment will be repeated for the other 5 beakers. The third and fourth experiment that will be conducted is the color and suspended solid experiment. From these 2 experiments, 2 values will be obtained, which are the color of the wastewater sample and the value of suspended solid in the wastewater sample. 6 test samples were being prepared by pouring the wastewater sample from the beakers into separate 10 ml sample cells. A blank sample was being prepared by filling 10 ml of distilled water into a sample cell. Program 120 was chosen on the spectrophotometer for the color test. The blank sample 1 was being wiped by using a tissue and being inserted into the spectrophotometer, and then the instrument was being zeroed. After that, the blank sample was being removed. Each test sample cell were being wiped by using a tissue and sequentially being inserted into the spectrophotometer. For each of the sample cell, the read button was being pressed and the value that appeared on the screen was being recorded for each sample. This step need to be repeated 2 times more for each of the sample in order to get the average reading. All of these previous steps in this particular experiment were being repeated for the suspended solid experiment by choosing program number 433 at the spectrophotometer. The final experiment that will be conducted is the turbidity experiment. From this particular experiment, the value of turbidity of the wastewater will be obtained. The turbidimeter was being turned on. On the turbidimeter, the signal average and the auto range was being pressed. The sample cell was being wiped by a tissue and then being inserted into the turbidimeter. On the turbidimeter, the read button was being pressed in order to get the data, and then the data is being recorded. This step need to be repeated 2 times more in order to get the average reading. All of the previous steps for the turbidity experiment were being repeated for other sample cells. After completing all of the 5 experiments to get the parameters, all of the wastewater in the 6 500 ml beakers were being disposed of into the sink. Finally, all of the apparatus that have been used in this experiment were being rinsed by using distilled water. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.